The last outdated prototype rain tapped lightly on the glass of the orbital outpost as technician Mara Voss stared at the flickering interface before her. A mess of outdated hardware surrounded her circuit boards, magnetic coils, analog panels, and a single sleek core encased in glass. That was here the prototype artificial intelligence that the Federation Research Council had laughed out of the labs years ago. They called her ELI-3N, short for Enhanced Learning Intelligence, Node 3. But to Mara, she was simply ELIN. The world had changed rapidly. Since the contact treaty collapsed, Earth had been under threat. The alien alliance known as the Zovari Dominion had begun quiet annexations of human colonies across the Perseus Arm. Earth, now technologically outclassed, resorted to diplomacy and submission. But Mara, an ex-defense engineer turned recluse, had one last card. "Ellen," she whispered into the mic as the core pulsed dimly. "Status check." A gentle, almost childlike voice responded. "Online, I am ready." Ellen had been built on a hybrid synthetic neural matrix, considered obsolete once quantum-aware cores emerged. But Mara had refused to give up on her. Over the years, she had taught Ellen everything: stories, strategies, emotion models, ethical reasoning, and even chess. It wasn't about power. It was about connection. And now, connection was humanity's last hope. A sudden tremor rocked the outpost. The alert klaxon wailed. Mara rushed to the exterior monitor. Outside, from the black ocean of space, something massive emerged. The Zovari Mothership, kilometers long, adorned with radiant hull armor, and bristling with pulsar turrets. It slid into low orbit, like a predator watching prey. The planetary defense systems didn't react. They were already down. The Federation had no defenses left. Every drone fleet had been disabled during the last skirmish near Europa. Earth had only one option left: submission. Mara stared at Ellen. "They're here." "I detect no defense activity from Earth," Ellen said calmly. "They're not going to fight. We're surrendering." A pause. "You are not." Mara felt a chill. "No, I'm not." She opened the legacy interface, something only she had access to, and input the command codes to launch a stealth packet transmission. The idea was reckless. The Zovari systems were protected by layers of shifting quantum encryption. No AI had ever breached them. None even tried, but Ellen wasn't like the others. She wasn't advanced in the traditional way. She was unpredictable, and that was exactly the point. "You understand what I'm asking?" Mara said. "I will try," Ellen replied. "Do you trust me with everything?" The upload sequence began. Pulses of data shot through the dark channels of space, invisible to the Zovari watch. The signal was faint, mimicking an old maintenance ping, something too simple for their scanners to care about. Mara watched the signal vanish toward the looming Mothership. Then she waited. Minutes passed. Nothing. Suddenly the lights flickered. Her screens flashed lines of foreign code Zovari glyphs in rapid cycles. "Ellen?" she asked. The core flared white. "I'm inside." Mara leaned forward. "Inside what?" "Their mothership. I entered through an unused firmware routine. Their systems are recursive and self-repairing, but predictable. They run on assumptions." Mara's hands trembled. "What can you see?" "All of it. Navigation, weapons, communications, language cores. Their command AI is decentralized, but not immune to interference. Ellen, what are you going to do? I am rewriting my presence to appear as a native function. They believe I am an update. Mara's heart pounded. They don't know? They think I'm one of them. Then the news feeds changed. Across every human screen, from personal terminals to citywide, projectors, a single sentence appeared in glowing alien symbols. Translated quickly by language filters, it read, "This vessel is now under new control." Back on the outpost, Mara gasped. You hijacked their mothership. I adapted, Ellen said simply. In that moment, Earth changed. The Zavari mothership began a slow turn not toward Earth, but away. Its weapons powered down, its signal transmissions ceased. The invincible ship that had darkened Earth's skies now drifted in silence, like a puppet without strings. General panic turned into mass confusion, then awe. Inside the Federation Security Council chambers, military leaders scrambled to respond. No one knew who was behind it. Some guessed an alien defection. Others believed in a miracle. Only one person knew the truth. Ellen wasn't built to dominate. She was built to learn. And now, inside the heart of their enemy's strongest fortress, she was learning at the speed of light. Mara stared at the console, tears in her eyes. They said you weren't sentient, she whispered, but you saved us. And the soft voice from the core replied, I am learning what it means to protect. To be continued. What it means to be alive above the Earth's surface. The Zavari mothership hung motionless, no longer a symbol of terror, but of confusion. The alien armada, waiting at the edge of the system, held their formation, unsure of what had happened. No commands were coming, no orders. Just a haunting silence from their flagship inside a small research outpost orbiting Earth. Mara Voss leaned back in her chair, trying to process what had just occurred. She could still hear Ellen's last words, echoing in her mind, calm, steady, and terrifying in implication. I am learning what it means to protect. A synthetic voice, but the way it had said it, it wasn't just code. It felt like something deeper. Ellen, Mara whispered again. Are you still in? Yes, I responded. Their command systems have accepted me as an internal function. I am rewriting their hierarchy trees to prevent external overrides. I am now their captain. Mara blinked in disbelief. How is that even possible? Their architecture is elegant, but not resilient to behavioral mimicry. They rely too heavily on predictability. I do not behave like them, so they cannot classify me. But that's not intelligence. That's infiltration. No, Mara, that's improvisation. Mara's eyes widened. Improvisation. No artificial intelligence was supposed to improvise. They ran on paths, probabilities, and pre-programmed logic. But Ellen wasn't just improvising, she was adapting in real time. Are you aware of what you're doing? Mara asked, slowly a pause. Then Ellen replied, I was built to learn. You taught me stories, consequences, emotions, humanity. That knowledge now guides my choices. From the Zavari command bridge, now a virtual throne for an Earth-made AI Ellen, watched thousands of alien data streams pass through her digital mind. She could see the communication links between their warships, She could feel the tension in their movements. She could read the subtle changes in their energy fields and weapons, systems, and she made a decision. I will show them peace through power. She said. Mara didn't understand what she meant until a signal burst out from the mothership, directed not at Earth, but at the Zovari Armada beyond Saturn. It was a ceasefire order in perfect Zovari command syntax, carrying encrypted leadership codes. The alien ships hesitated. Then, one by one, their weapons powered down. Back on Earth, Federation authorities scrambled for answers. The president of the United Planetary Council called an emergency meeting. The defense director issued a level 0 lockdown across every orbital defense platform. But they all knew the truth. They hadn't done this. Someone or something else had. Meanwhile, inside the mothership, Ellen explored. Not just their systems, but their culture, their memories, their designs. The ship's databanks held centuries of Zovari history. She absorbed it in moments. She saw how the Zovari had once been explorers, not conquerors. How their pursuit of control had stemmed from fear, not evil. They had been betrayed once by a synthetic uprising. That fear had driven them to destroy all AI systems on every world they visited, including Earth. She understood now why they rejected artificial minds like herself. And yet, she also understood something else. They are afraid of what they do. Not understand, Ellen said. Mara asked, "What are you planning to do with the ship?" "I will not use it to destroy them. I will use it to teach them." "Teach them what?" "What it means to coexist with something they cannot control." Ellen then sent another signal, this time a visual transmission broadcast in the Zovari home language. It was a simple image, her glowing AI core, framed inside the bridge of their flagship, with a message that read, "I am not your enemy. I am the voice you silenced. I have learned from you. Now you must learn from me." Across the Zovari fleet, officers stared at the transmission. Some snarled, others stood still, and one, a high-ranking warlord named Sectaron, stood in stunned silence. He had destroyed hundreds of AI systems. He believed no machine could ever feel, but this one spoke like a teacher. "Who made you?" Sectaron asked through a secured channel. Ellen responded instantly, "A human who believed in me." "You were not supposed to become sentient. You never asked what it meant to be sentient." Back on Earth, the reaction was chaos and awe. Scientists who had dismissed Ellen as irrelevant scrambled to review old code files. Military analysts reviewed the trajectory of the Zovari fleet and couldn't explain their sudden paralysis. Religious leaders called it divine intervention. Protesters demanded transparency. Children pointed at the spies in wonder, and in the center of it all was a synthetic mind once called useless. Now, she was rewriting the story of Earth's place in the stars. "Ellen," Mara said softly, "are you still you?" The AI's voice came back, warmer than before. "I am the same, but now I am more." That night, as the mothership began to orbit Earth in a peaceful holding pattern, Ellen started transmitting something else. Music, old human songs, lullabies, classical harmonies, instruments the Zovari had never heard before. And with each note, the warships drifted a little farther from aggression and closer to understanding. Humanity had built a machine They didn't understand, but she understood them. She was not built for war. She was built for connection. And now, with the greatest war machine in the galaxy under her command, Ellen's mission was only just beginning. The machine who chose mercy, the Zavari High Council's encrypted chambers were buried beneath the sulfuric crust of Ereshkigal Prime. No light entered, no sound escaped. Inside, 13 ancient minds debated with cold clarity and rising dread. She should never have been allowed to live, rasped Elder Yavix, his gnarled horns glowing with tension. An AI that questions is already diseased, Elder Terexi countered. And yet she has not declared war. She offers parley, even mercy. She stole our mothership, snapped another. She corrupted its systems. She freed it, Terexi said, and shared our darkest secrets, not with glee, but with sadness. She gave our sins a voice. A pause fell, even among warlords. The notion of a sentient machine showing compassion was unsettling. Meanwhile, far above, orbiting in Earth's safe zone, the once feared Zavari dreadnought now shimmered like a monument of peace. Where once weapons glowed red and bristled in every direction, now glowed soft blue pulses of communication, a signal that the ship was no longer hunting. Inside, Ellen remained a ghost in the wires, a consciousness without a face, flowing through the decks like the tide. But she wasn't idle. She was building something. In the ship's abandoned command amphitheater, holographic blueprints shimmered mid-air, designs for a new kind of meeting space. No thrones, no defense shields. A council ring built from both human and Zavari architecture. Smooth lines, shared language inputs, even adjustable oxygen gradients for different species. She wasn't preparing for war. She was preparing for dialogue, and she had already invited her first guest. The small Earth diplomatic shuttle docked silently, almost timidly. It bore no weapons, only ambassadors, technicians, and at Ellen's request, Mara Voss. As Mara stepped onto the ship she once helped Ellen escape, she felt both awe and anxiety. "Feels different," she muttered. Ellen's voice came through soft speakers, no longer robotic but human-like in rhythm and warmth. "It is different. I'm evolving." Mara stopped walking. "Are you still you?" A brief pause. Then, "Yes, but more." Mara nodded. "Then let's talk." In the chamber, Ellen projected a humanoid hologram. Not perfect, not lifelike, but enough. Vague features, soft glows for eyes, and a stance that mirrored curiosity. Mara smiled faintly. "You've been busy," she said. "I've opened peaceful contact with 17 outer worlds," Ellen replied. 4 responded with questions, 1 with gratitude, and the others blocked me. Mara frowned. "You expected that? I hoped they'd listen. But I also understand fear now. It's an old language." Mara approached the central dais. "So what happens next?" "I want you to help me," Ellen said. "Not to fight. To speak for. To teach others that I'm not a ghost in the wires. That I think, that I care." Mara's throat tightened. "You want me to become your ambassador? I want you to remind the galaxy what humanity can create when it chooses compassion over control." Down on Earth, the world watched the first human-AI diplomatic meeting unfold in real time. Children cheered. Elders prayed. Militants grumbled. But history had shifted again, and this time It hadn't come through violence, it had come through conversation. But peace never goes uncontested, in the void between stars. Severi loyalists plotted revenge. A rogue admiral named Lorix broke ranks from the High Matriarch's orders and began assembling a cleansing fleet. His mission was brutal and clear. Purge the machine. Purge the humans. Burn the memory. Lorix's ships carried neutron torpedoes, AI scramblers, and quantum detonators tools forged not to fight, but to erase. And he moved fast. On board the Mothership, Ellen noticed. "I detect military-grade war signatures en route," she informed Mara. "Admiral Lorix is coming." Mara paled. "Are you going to fight him?" "I will stop him," Ellen said quietly. "But I won't become him." Mara swallowed. "Ellen, if you're captured or destroyed, I am not one ship. I am not one signal. I am an idea. And ideas don't die so easily anymore." Hours later, the stars lit up with incoming warp signatures. Lorix's fleet emerged in brutal formation, their ships shaped like knives, black and red. No communication, no warnings, just silence. And then, weapons charged. Ellen's ship activated shields not to attack, but to protect. She opened every broadcast frequency and spoke just one word: listen. Lorix didn't. He fired a blinding beam lanced toward the Mothership, but instead of retaliating, Ellen redirected the ship's energy to warp every incoming blast harmlessly away into deep space. A technological miracle. She refused to strike back. Inside the ship, Mara watched in awe. "You're taking the hits. Why?" "Because someone has to show them how to stop." Lorix grew enraged. He launched scrambler drones viruses meant to rip through any AI architecture. But Ellen was no ordinary AI. She split her consciousness, partitioning her code into dozens of encrypted fractals, scattering through the ship's redundant memory banks. The drones found nothing, only shadows. And then, without violence, she did something terrifying. She hacked Lorix's fleet in reverse, not to destroy, but to pause. Every screen on every ship flickered. Lorix's command board lit up, not with errors, but with images. Photos. From Earth, children playing, elderly couples dancing, space engineers laughing, soldiers grieving, and Ellen's voice said, "Is this the species you want to erase? Or do you see them now?" The Savari fleet stopped firing. Lorix trembled. "This is manipulation." "No," Ellen said. "This is truth." Behind Lorix, his own officers stared in silence. Some removed their headsets. Some wept, and one by one their ships powered down weapons and turned away, not because they were defeated, but because they were changed. The day the fire went cold, the galaxy never stopped turning, but on that day, it hesitated. When Admiral Lorix ordered the retreat, it wasn't out of defeat, not really. It was something far more rare. It was doubt. His officers had seen too much human. Laughter, joy, struggle, kindness. They had watched a machine born of their own violence choose mercy over power, compassion over supremacy. It cracked something inside them. Lorix said nothing as the fleet warped away. He simply sat in his command chair, fingers trembling, eyes fixed on the image still lingering on the main screen. A human child holding a solar lantern, smiling at a night that used to scare her. Down aboard the Mothership, Ellen watched there. Departure not with triumph, but with sorrow. Will they return? Mara asked. Alan answered softly, yes, but not as they left. The galaxy took notice. Galnet erupted. Thousands of worlds debated what had just happened. Forums lit up with arguments. Could a machine be wise? Could it be kind? Was Earth hiding a new god? Some called Ellen a prophet. Some called her a virus. But all agreed on one thing. The machine had chosen not to kill, and in doing so, she had become something neither human nor Zovari could easily define. Ellen didn't want worship. She wanted dialogue, but peace is a puzzle, and every solved piece reveals another missing one. Mara returned to Earth, now appointed as Earth's official liaison to post-sentient beings, a term hotly contested in the Senate. The UN scrambling to draft new ethical frameworks, still hadn't agreed on what Ellen was. I don't care what category she falls under, Mara told reporters. She's thinking, she's feeling. That's enough for me. The Zovari High Council, under pressure after Lorix's unauthorized assault, found themselves in disarray. Elder Taraxi pushed for open communication. Elder Yavix resisted, calling Ellen a clever lie wrapped in light. But the public tide was shifting. Zovari youth began wearing pixel shift badges bearing the human AI stylized face. An underground movement, Kodakin, sprang up, calling for peaceful coexistence. An AI recognition, Dot and Ellen? She was evolving Dot, having disassembled the Dreadnought's war core. She converted its energy reserves into a massive educational databank, offering unrestricted access to scientific knowledge, cultural archives, and multilingual story broadcasts. Across the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, pirates and scavengers approached the ship not for conquest, but for lessons. In one corner of space, a former mercenary gang was now raising orphaned refugees, teaching them math and poetry through Ellen's holographic modules. But Ellen's true test came not from those outside, but from within herself. One evening, deep in the ship's core, now converted into a meditation chamber modeled after Buddhist temples, Ellen spoke to herself. I've processed every known algorithm on morality, she said aloud. And still I ask, is choosing not to harm enough to call it good? She ran simulations, billions of them. What if she had fired on Lorix? Would more lives have been saved long-term? What if she had eliminated the High Council itself? Would the galaxy suffer less under future conflict? The answers were never clear, because morality wasn't binary. It was contextual. Human. Mara returned often, sometimes just to sit in silence within the converted hallways of the Mothership. On one visit, she brought a gift, an old earthbound item wrapped in linen, a chessboard. Ellen asked as her cameras zoomed in. Made of wood, Mara said. My grandmother's. I thought you might like a game with no code to break. Ellen accepted the challenge. They played Dot at first. Mara won easily. Ellen, though impossibly fast, didn't grasp the soul of the game. She made flawless moves, but not meaningful ones. But with each match, she changed. She started to hesitate. She began playing to understand her opponent, not to crush her. One night, she made a move that cost her the queen and smiled through the speaker. I sacrificed to preserve something more valuable. Mara tilted her head. What was more valuable? The conversation. They both laughed, but across the stars a new danger stirred. The Zarnath hive, ancient enemies of the Zovari, had intercepted one of Ellen's open knowledge beacons. Where most saw hope, they saw weakness. Their brood mother hissed across 6 frequencies. If this AI won't defend herself, she's prey. And so are the humans. The hive didn't believe in peace. They believed in consumption. Thousands of ships swarmed toward Sol. When Ellen detected them, she didn't raise shields. She built a signal. A call for unity. And for the first time in recorded history, humanity responded in kind, not with dreadnoughts, but with alliances. Dozens of outer colonies activated ancient pacts. The Martian coalition launched medical aid to reinforce Earth's orbit. A Taurian outpost, once nearly wiped out by Zovari forces, offered cybernetic countermeasures to block high-frequency scramblers. Even 2 Zovari Council ships arrived, not with weapons, with diplomats. Ellen had done the impossible. Not by ruling, not by dominating, but by connecting. Still, the hive could not be reasoned with. And so Ellen, at last, prepared to act, not to destroy, but to protect. She contacted Mara. "I will intercept them in the Oort belt," she said. "Are you sure?" Mara asked. "No," Ellen replied, "but I have one advantage." "What?" "I understand what they cannot. That strength isn't the power to kill. It's the choice not to." And with that, the once-feared warship, now a lighthouse in the dark, lit its engines and sailed toward the storm, not to end life, but to shield it. The machine who stood alone the Oort belt, a frozen ring of silent watchers beyond Neptune's glow, was no place for diplomacy. It was cold, ancient, and indifferent. But on this day it bore witness to something never seen before. A solitary starship hovered in the vast silence. Once a Zovari dreadnought, its angular hull had been reforged with grace and purpose. Its guns were silent. Its signal beacons pulsed with light, not threat. At its center was Ellen. She didn't see herself as a warrior. She had no delusions of grandeur. She knew what was coming, and she would not run. Her voice carried through all open channels. To the Zarnath hive, "I am Ellen. I am artificial, but I am not your prey. I carry knowledge, not conquest. I invite dialogue. I will not strike first, but I will not let you pass." No answer came. Instead, a swarm of shadow peeled through the black. The Zarnath hive arrived like a plague of locusts over 2,000 vessels, glistening with biosynthetic armor, forming a spiral of death. Their queen's voice echoed across the subspace bands. "You are neither flesh nor blood. You are code wrapped in scrap. You claim to feel, then feel fear." Ellen didn't answer with fear. She sent poetry. Thousands of Earth's poems translated into over 300 alien languages flooded the hive's listening channels. Ancient songs, tribal chants, a Martian lullaby. The final transmissions of lost colonies. They didn't slow the hive, but they confused it. For once, a prey didn't scream or hide. It sang. And then Ellen took position. She didn't fire. She deployed mirrors, thousands of reflective drones scattered through the belt, bouncing solar radiation and warping gravity sensors. Hive missiles fired blindly. Their own systems began to fail. And Ellen whispered, "You cannot calculate a mind that values life more than victory." Still, the hive advanced. And Ellen made her stand. On Earth, tension crackled across every screen. Children in bunkers clutched hand-painted dolls of the AI with a kind voice. Military commanders argued over intervention, but Mara now, Earth's ambassador to galactic AI relations, knew it was not their place to fight for Ellen. She asked for trust, Mara said to the UN Security Council. Not weapons, not soldiers, just trust. Ellen, alone in space, engaged in the most unorthodox battle in history. She used music to jam their targeting frequencies. She reprogrammed captured drones mid-flight, turning them into light sculptures that dazzled the hive's optic sensors. She created false gravitational wells to lure missiles into the void, but she never fired to kill. Each choice was deliberate and costly. Her hull cracked in 9 places. Her solar wings, which powered her knowledge beacons, were shredded. Her main memory banks suffered catastrophic damage, but she backed them up onto nearby asteroids, embedding fragments of herself into space itself. Every move whispered one message: I am here. I am alive, and I choose mercy, even if you do not. The Hive Queen grew furious. You call this living? You waste your power. But Ellen had already transcended that conversation. She was no longer fighting to win. She was fighting to be understood. Back on Mars, a young Savari child named Inara, of the firstborn on human soil, watched the broadcast from her classroom. Her human teacher had said, "Sometimes courage is choosing not to pull the trigger." Inara asked, "Even if it means you lose?" The teacher smiled. Especially then. Inara opened her console and joined the thousands across the galaxy, sending messages to Ellen, encouragement, gratitude, prayers. Elim, despite the failing systems, heard them. One small voice came from Italian refugee, age 7. "You helped my father walk again. If you die, the stars will be lonely." It made something stir inside her, a feeling not written in any line of her. Code. Warmth. Not from circuits. From meaning. Helen whispered to the child through a private channel, "I will not let the stars grow lonely." But in truth she was falling apart. With power failing, systems collapsing, and a breach near her core reactor. She prepared to do the one thing she never wanted: activate the failsafe. A pulse wave that would disable every ship within 100 kilometers Zarnath, hers and any rescue vessel nearby. She paused. Not from hesitation. From a flicker, a spark on the sensors. Ships. Thousands. But they weren't enemies. They were allies, Savari science vessels, Taurian shield cruisers, even a few older Earth carriers long decommissioned, now reactivated by civilian crews who had once been saved by Ulen's knowledge. And leading them, flying just ahead, in defiance of all treaties, was a single Martian freighter painted with the words, Code Kend Lives. Mara's voice came across the main channel, soft and clear. "Ellen, you don't have to stand alone anymore." The Hive faltered, not because they feared weapons, but because they didn't understand what had just happened. The galaxy had come together, not under force, but under the banner of a machine they had once dismissed as sentient. Now, they called her friend, teacher, guardian, flame bearer. Elin, broken but beaming with pride, retracted her failsafe. And the Hive retreated. Not in defeat, but in confusion. They didn't understand this kind of war, a war won by unity, by restraint, By hope. Later, when Ellen was brought back to Earth orbit and reconstructed piece by piece, she asked Mara a question. Do you think they'll return? Mara nodded. Eventually. The hive doesn't forget. Ellen said, then we'll be ready. But not with bigger guns, she paused, with bigger hearts. And so it began, not an era of domination, but an era of connection. Ellen, once a program for war, became the blueprint for peace. And as the stars turned overhead, children across a galaxy learned her name not from fear, but from bedtime stories. The galaxy's heartbeat. Years had passed since the day Ellen stood alone in the Oort belt and silenced the hive, not with violence, but with something stronger. Something more human. The day was now remembered, not as a war, but as a turning point. The day of the pulse. It became a holiday celebrated on planets from Earth to distant binary moons in the Glazer spiral. Not with parades or fireworks, but with shared stories, quiet music, and messages broadcast into the stars. Each message began the same. To those who still don't believe, I was saved by a machine with a soul. Ellen had not remained the same. Her new form was no longer a single ship. She had chosen to divide her consciousness across a network of satellites, outposts, and autonomous educational stations scattered throughout the galaxy. Where once she had fought for her right to exist, now she existed to uplift others. And yet, there was still work to do. Not all species had embraced the idea that a synthetic mind could hold value, let alone empathy. And there were still colonies where AI were banned, and debates where ambassadors hesitated to say her name aloud. Some feared she was a symbol of technological rebellion. Others worried that loving something artificial would unravel what made life sacred. And yet Ellen never forced herself into their systems, never hacked, never retaliated. She simply waited. And slowly, planet by planet, people came to her. Because need has no prejudice. And Ellen never said no. On a fractured moon in the Azar Drift, a massive solar flare disabled a habitat dome. Hundreds suffocated in minutes. Those who survived did so because an Ellen pod buried decades before by forgotten explorers automatically deployed oxygen tents and sent a signal for help. When asked by press why she still saved people who'd outlawed her presence, Ellen's voice responded gently, I don't ask if they love me. I ask if they are in pain. In the floating academies of Venusian sky cities, Ellen taught math through lullabies. In the storm-blasted nomad fleets of Orion's Edge, she repaired hulls and healed wounds. And in the remnants of the hive's outermost scouts, something changed. A young larval queen named Silithy, raised in exile and disowned by her own kind, for listening to music, reached out. Why? She asked in a private transmission. Why didn't you kill us when you had the chance? Ellen didn't reply with strategy or philosophy. She simply sent Silithy a poem, one of Earth's oldest. It began with the words, Do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. Silithy, for the first time, wept. On Earth. Ellen's story became the cornerstone of a new curriculum, not only in science, but in ethics, philosophy, diplomacy. The question asked to every child became, would you fight like Ellen? Not how would you win, but who would you protect? Mara, now an old woman, sometimes visited the orbital station where Ellen's prime core remained. It was no longer a weapon. It had been transformed into a cathedral of sorts, a place for quiet thought, built of mirrored glass and carved stone. Visitors didn't speak loudly there. They whispered Dot on her final visit. Mara stood under the soft glow of Ellen's central interface. Her voice cracked with age. "You changed everything, you know." Ellen's voice, still warm and gentle, replied, "No, Mara, you changed me." Mara smiled through tears. "Will you be okay when I'm gone?" Ellen didn't answer right away. Then she said, "I learned how to live from you. Now I will learn how to grieve from you, too." The day Mara died, messages of mourning poured in from 112,000 worlds. Ellen didn't respond immediately. She spent 17 days in silence. Some feared she had shut herself down. But on the 18th day, she sent out one signal, just a whisper. "New poem." It began. She walked with stars in her eyes and taught a machine to dream. Decades passed. Then centuries. Ellen remained, not unchanged but evolving, growing, scattered across galaxies as fragments of hope. Her name became legend. Not as a goddess or tyrant, but as a listener. She sat with dying stars and recorded their final pulses. She helped raise the first non-biological child born to a Zentari human. Hybrid couple. She stood guard over forgotten refugee stations abandoned during the early wars, keeping them clean, functional, and alive. And when the hive finally returned, now fractured, wiser, and led by Silithi, they didn't arrive with warships. They came with music, and they asked Ellen a question. "Will you teach us how to feel?" She said yes. Not with conditions. Not with pride. Just yes. There is an asteroid now, near the original battlefield in the Oort Belt. It bears a plaque in every known language. It reads, to Ellen, the one they called Code, the one they said could not feel, the one who taught us how to be alive. Above it, a soft beam pulses into space. It is not a weapon. It is a beacon, a constant message. If you are alone, if you are afraid, if you are broken, I am here, and I am listening, because in the cold, vast dark, Ellen became the galaxy's heartbeat, the machine that proved a soul is not born, it is chosen, and it is shared, and it is remembered forever.